What's up, guys? What we're going to do in this video is basically just the initial cleaning of my Bear Creek Arsenal BC8. I'm just going to get this thing ready for the range and wanted to bring you guys along with it. Before we get started, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, like and share the video, and leave me a comment down below. You had seen this rifle in a recent unboxing video that I did. If you've not seen that, go back and check it out on my channel. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to be cleaning it and get it ready, get an Optic mounted on it, and just thought I would bring you guys along. They do have this rifle in 3 different chamberings. This is the 30-06. You can also get these in the 270 Winchester as well as the 300 Win Mag. Just because it is an AR platform rifle does not mean you are going to take this down as easy as you would a normal AR-15. These pins are in very solid. You are not going to easily get them out. You're not just going to press them out. It is impossible. But you do get very tight fitment between the lower and the upper on this firearm. Very solid. Of course, it does have the side charging handle, which is something that Bear Creek Arsenal is known for. That's something that a lot of people like, and for this type of firearm, I believe that it works very well. For now, what we're going to do is drive out the pins, get the upper and the lower separated, and begin the cleaning process. We are not modifying a firearm for the YouTube reviewers out there, and this is again basic takedown and cleaning of this firearm in accordance with your own policies, which I'll put a photo of. So now, as I mentioned, you're not going to simply push these pins out. I'm going to take just an old brass rod, just something that I can use to tap that pin out. That's what I'm going to be doing, and then I'm going to show you what the internals of this firearm looks like. Now, I've got the 2 halves of the rifle separated, and as I'd mentioned, you are not going to get this thing apart by trying to press those out with your thumb. You're going to need some type of a non-marring punch. For me, I just used a couple of older brass rods, brass cleaning rods that I have, and just drive those pins out, and here is the lower. The next step is to get the bolt out, which in order to do that, we have to remove the charging handle. Okay, we cannot get this out with this charging handle in place. I've already got this loosened up, so I'm simply going to unscrew the bolt here on the charging handle. You can see how it sets in there, and set it aside. The other thing that you have to do is you have to remove this plug, and it just threads right out. You simply turn this just like that, and it will come out, and now you are able to remove the bolt. Okay, simply grab it and slide it out the back just like any other AR-15, and I just want you to look at the size of this bolt. Large, very heavily built, and this is chambered in the 30-06. What I'm going to do now is simply clean it up and get it ready for the next step of the process, because you can see here it does still have a lot of I guess you could say manufacturing lube, plus they did test fire this to make sure that it worked before they shipped it out, but we're going to make sure that it's cleaned up before we take it to the range. And just to show you guys, the gas block is properly staked. There again, it's not going to go anywhere. Got it tightened down, it is properly staked. But now let's just go ahead, get some cleaner, get this thing cleaned up. I'm simply going to take some cleaner and just give everything a good cleaning, going over everything. I'm not going to go through the full detail on how to clean this rifle. It is basically just like any other AR-15. I do have a video, and I will put a link up here in the corner if you're watching on YouTube to my AR-15 cleaning video, and you can go through that to check it out if you are unsure how to clean an AR platform rifle. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then we will be right back. Let's just take a moment to look at the lower on this beast. This is the Magpul stock. I had talked in the other video about some of the features that this stock has, including storage, so go back and check that out on my channel. This is a very large lower receiver. This rifle is made for hunting. I think it had hunters in mind, hence the name, the Huntmaster. Of course, chambered in the 30-06, the 300 Win Mag, or the 270. This is obviously going to be something that could take down any type of large game. If you have just the lower, you can switch the uppers out. You can actually have all three of those, and depending on what you're hunting, what you're wanting to do, you can actually switch between calibers. So that is one very nice feature about this firearm. Let's take a minute to look at the trigger, and I'm going to put my hand over the hammer just to keep it from hitting the lower because I don't want to damage it. There is no take up in this trigger, absolutely none. Right there is literally the wall just as soon as you touch that trigger, and then when you press that trigger, it goes. And I'm going to hold that trigger back and show you the reset. Okay, the reset is right there. Very little movement for that reset. I've got it pretty much oiled up. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and get the rifle reassembled. Getting the rifle back together, I'm simply going to take the bolt, make sure that it is extended out, and put it back into the lower just like that. Now the next step is I'm going to take that plug, and I want you to notice the flat side of it. That flat side needs to be facing the lower receiver. So we're going to go ahead and get that threaded back in as well. You don't want to force it. This goes in just finger tight, and just screw it all the way up until it stops. And make sure again that flat is facing the lower. The next step is to get the charging handle reinstalled. Simply take it, put it back into position, and run that screw down. I'm going to go ahead and get that started with my fingers before I put a wrench on it, and do not over tighten it. You do not want to over tighten it and strip the screws out on this. You know, you can use a torque wrench or whatever, but just make sure you do not over tighten this putting this back in. Got it snugged up. I'm going to cycle that action just a bit, just to kind of get some of the lubrication spread around inside there. This is the type of lube that I use. It is cleanse oil. I really like how this does. It seems to perform very well. I've talked about it in other videos. If you're interested in any of the cleaning supplies, I'll put links down in the description below. So go down there and check it out. Now that we have all of this cleaned, we have got the barrel cleaned. I've gone ahead and run through with a rod just to make sure that the barrel is clean as well. It is time to reassemble the upper and the lower. Take the upper and the lower, get that front pin lined up just right. I'm trying to show you guys as much as possible on how this thing goes together, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to show you. That front pin, I got it snapped in, so we are that much ahead. This rear pin is a completely different discussion, but I do want to show you something, and this is why you make sure that that plug has that flat facing that receiver. This is where the challenge comes in. Okay, you got to squeeze this down and get that rear pin started. This is not an easy process. Be careful, do not damage your firearm. I'm actually going to pause the camera, get this started, and then come back to show you guys what it is. To get the upper and the lower back together where you need it to be able to get that pin in, what you want to do, set this down on a hard surface with the Picatinny rail facing down, and simply take your hand, press down on this very firmly till you get that pin to line up, and then once you get it to line up, you can press it back into place. This is much more challenging than a standard AR-15. That's something that you do need to be aware of. Don't get excited, don't abuse it, don't try to take a hammer and bash the thing in, because all you're going to do is mess up your rifle. Do it right, do it properly, and it will go back in the way that it should. Now that we've got it back together, I'm going to check the action. I'm going to check that trigger just to show you that trigger again. No take up whatsoever. Press that shot, it clicks, it goes. Cycle that action, the reset right there. Very nice trigger for this rifle. Bear Creek Arsenal is typically known as what some would call a budget manufacturer, but there's nothing budget about this. This thing is solid. It is a tank. It is heavy built. Now that we've got it cleaned up, what I'm going to do is move over to the bench, and I'm going to get my scope mounted. Stick around to find out what I'm putting on it. Just to show you the mount that I'm using, this is a Monstrum scope mount, and this has a built-in level. That way it will be much easier to make sure that the gun is level, and level that scope with the gun. That's something I've talked about in other videos, guys. You have got to level that scope. You've got to make sure that that scope is level. Get that gun level, get that scope level, because if you don't, it's not going to be as accurate as it could. Also, make sure that you are using a torque driver. I prefer the fat wrench that you're going to see. That way you can make sure that things are torqued down properly. Make sure that the scope will clear the rail. That's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. This particular mount will make sure that the scope that I'm using will clear the Picatinny rail of that rifle. Look over the mess, guys. I've got the base just setting up here for now. I've got to just get everything setting on the rifle and make sure that I get the eye relief where I need it to be. I've got the bolts loosened up on the mount, and I'm just going to snug them down. This is the fat wrench that I talked about earlier. You need to make sure that you torque these. Just for now, guys, I'm going to just snug everything up just to make sure that I get my eye relief where I need it to be, and then I'm going to get everything leveled up. The scope that I decided to go with on the Bear Creek Arsenal BC8 is an Optics. This is the SH4J Gen 2. I've got a couple videos on these particular scopes. I've actually got a couple of different ones on different rifles, so go back and check those out on my channel. These are a great scope, especially for the value. And again, I will link these down below if you are interested in getting one of these, and that way you can kind of help support the channel as well. Let's go ahead and get this out of the box just to show it to you. You can see it here. It comes very well packaged. You get all the goods down here below, so we're just going to go ahead and get everything out, get everything off of the scope, and that way you can get a little bit better, closer to look at it. You do have the lens protectors that come with it. You have the sunshade that comes with it as well. I'm just going to go ahead and get that off. I will be adding that. I like the way that it makes it look. That's just a personal preference of mine. Also does have some good function as well. Let's just set this up on the rifle just to see how it looks. Begin checking our eye relief. You can see there how it looks on the rifle. Let's go ahead and get the caps started on the top. Again, we're not going to be tightening everything down until we get the scope leveled. All right, guys, we've got everything leveled up, and what we are ready to do now is just torque everything down. The base, I've got it torqued down to about 20 inch-pounds. Just using my fat wrench. The rings is anywhere from 15 to 18 inch-pounds. You do not want to over tighten these. If you over tighten them, there is a chance that you can damage your scope. Okay, so make sure that you use a good torque wrench, a torque screwdriver to get them torqued properly. A procedure, you don't want to just run one side all the way down and then go over to the other. You want to make sure that you run them down evenly. So what I like to do is just run them down till they touch. And then once you get them touching and even all the way around, that's when you can come back and actually get them torqued. Pay attention to is the gap on both sides of your scope rings. I've got a very detailed video on my channel on how to mount a scope on your rifle. I'll leave a card to it up in the corner right here to where you guys can go over there and check that out. And as I'd mentioned, you got to torque them. And I'm just going to basically go opposite on each of these screws just to make sure they're torqued down evenly. Guys, here is my Bear Creek Arsenal BC8 with the Optic scope mounted on top. We are now ready to zero the scope, and that's going to be done in the range video. In fact, I'm probably just going to zero it and then just show you guys some of the shooting footage. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, again, I want to thank my channel members. Those guys are the ones that really make stuff like this possible. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, you can do so over on my main channel and help support what we do here. You can also support us by checking out the links down below in the description. Again, guys, I'm going to have links to a lot of this stuff down there. Watching, check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and share the video, and we will see you next time.